2024 City Council meeting, and we're happy to be back after a few weeks of a break, and glad to see a lot of folks in the room. Thank you so much for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the city's public webcast and meeting materials web page. Tonight's meeting will include a public comment period. If you wish to speak during the public comment period and have not already done so, please fill out a request to speak form available on the public webcast and meeting materials webpage, or fill out one of the printed forms available at the entrance to this room. We'll accept those forms until 7:35, and they will be used to generate the random order of speakers and to correctly enter speakers' names into the public record. And for those of you who are joining the meeting remotely, you are welcome to email your comments to the City Council. And as a reminder, we have a few rules of conduct. We do not want any flags, signs, loud or disruptive music, any noise, anything that might sort of disrupt the respectful and quiet flow of business. The goal here is for everyone to be heard and to everyone to feel safe saying what they need to say before council. And you are always free to wiggle your fingers in a show of silent support. And then again, if any of you are not feeling well or have been exposed to someone who is not feeling well, we encourage you to attend the meeting remotely. We do have masks in the back of the room if you don't have one and would like to have one. And so with that, I do call this meeting to order. And as we do, we will begin this with a formal land acknowledgement. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. This land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and of honoring Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Ilahi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. And now I have a couple of proclamations as part of our sort of ceremonial opening for this meeting. The first one is in recognition of Fair Housing Month. Whereas the month of April has been designated as Fair Housing Month by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, and whereas the Federal Fair Housing Act, enacted on April 11th, 1968, and the Federal Fair Housing Act amendments of 1988 prohibit discriminatory housing practices. And whereas the Fair Housing Act, as amended, and other federal laws ensure all individuals receive equal treatment in the pursuit of their housing choices. And whereas the federal protected classes include race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, and familial status. And whereas the Oregon protected classes add marital status, familial status, and source of income. And whereas the Eugene City Code protected classes adds age over 18, occupation, ethnicity, domestic partnership status, age, sexual orientation, source of income, and disability. And whereas members of protected classes are increasingly and disproportionately more vulnerable to displacement, rental housing discrimination, poor quality housing, and barriers to opportunity due to rising home ownership and rental housing costs. And whereas the impacts of barriers to housing negatively impact household social, economic, and personal health. And whereas solutions to creating and protecting rental housing choice and homeownership require all programs of government to affirmatively address the removal of barriers to housing choice. And whereas the Fair Housing Act requires the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and recipients of federal funds from Housing and Urban Development to affirmatively further the policies and purposes of the Fair Housing Act, also known as affirmatively furthering fair housing. And whereas the City of Eugene, as a recipient of federal funding, extends the obligation to affirmatively further fair housing and access to opportunity to all departments, their partners, programs, activities, and funding. Now, therefore, I, Lucy Vinnis, Mayor of the City of Eugene, Oregon, do hereby proclaim April 2024 to be Fair Housing Month in Eugene, Oregon, and encourage all residents to observe this month by joining the effort to promote fair housing for all. And our second proclamation tonight is in honor of Earth Day. Whereas the first Earth Day took place in 1970 and has since grown into the largest civic observance in the world, with more than 1 billion people participating in Earth Day activities each year. And whereas all people in our global community, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment. The global community faces challenges such as health issues, food and water access, sea level rise, loss of forests, wetlands, and other wildlife habitat, as well as social and economic struggles due to the changing climate. It is crucial to broaden and diversify this global movement to combat climate change and environmental degradation to preserve our Earth's beauty and resources. And whereas EarthDay.org, EDO, announced Planet versus Plastics as the theme for Earth Day 2024. The theme is focused on uniting students, parents, businesses, governments, churches, unions, individuals, and NGOs, that's non-governmental organizations, in an unwavering commitment to call for the end of plastics for the sake of human and planetary health, demanding a 60% reduction in the production of plastics by 2040 and an ultimate goal of building a plastic-free future for generations to come. And whereas Earth Day affirms our responsibility to act locally in the global effort to combat climate change and protect our climate for all. Now, therefore, I, Lucy Vinnis, Mayor of the City of Eugene, Oregon, do hereby proclaim April 22, 2024 to be Earth Day in Eugene and encourage all community members to do their part in investing in our planet and to hold ourselves accountable for our individual and collective impacts to Mother Earth. Okay, thank you for your patience and your respectful attention to all of that. And with that, we're ready to move on to our first items, committee reports and items of interest. And so are there counselors who have something to share? Counselor Semple?
Thank you. We got an email today saying that the city's newsroom has gone live, and I invite you to check it out. If you go to our eugene-or.gov website and right below the first line of what's happening, there's a button you can click on, and the page has bright colored pictures and photographs you can follow to get to all kinds of stories. We have featured news, community safety, arts and culture, parks and entertainment, transportation, and happening now. I'm very excited about this because one of the things I was concerned about when I started on council was how do we engage the community? How do we let people know what's going on? And this has gotten more and more challenging. So I think this is a big step, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you all love it. So go check it out. My second thing is the dog park at Washington Jefferson underneath the on-ramp to 105 is open. It's glorious. It's got a fence all the way around. It's about a block large, so it's not like Amazon or Crest, but it's really nice. And people have been using it. Sometimes I'm the only one, sometimes there's 16 dogs. But not only is it great for me and my dog, but people are starting to talk to each other. And I just think that's wonderful. People who wouldn't run into each other otherwise, and they don't know I'm a counselor, so that's even better. All kinds of conversations and friendships. So that really encourages me. And I hope we will remember that as we densify, we aren't having our backyards. So we aren't having gardens and places for our dog to play fetch. So I think it becomes more and more critical that we save land to have dog parks. People will always have their dogs, and community gardens. That's something that we'll have less of as we get denser housing. So let's keep it wonderful for all of us by keeping that as part of living in Eugene. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. I see Councilor Evans.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My comment is to call attention to what we have right now, not a pending crisis, but we are in a crisis in terms of healthcare in our community. And we are losing healthcare providers, doctors, physicians' assistants. We're losing um, uh, support personnel, and it is affecting uh, a whole lot of people in our community, across our community, whether you're living in the city of Eugene, Springfield, or anywhere in Lane County. Um, I'm not going to get into the details. I know that the city attorney would slap my hands or my wrist on this, but I'm calling attention to something that a whole lot of people in this community are going through right now, and that's the loss of healthcare services, um, and the fact that the people who are behind that loss of healthcare services are more interested in making money than they are serving the patients that they're supposed to be serving in this community. So I hope there's something that we can do about that. Maybe not as a council, but I think that we need to do that with our jurisdictional partners at the state and county level.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. And I know Councilor Keating has a comment also.
Yeah, I want to thank Councilor Evans for bringing that up. It prompted me, it reminded me just recently, in the last couple of days, Representative Nancy Nathanson appeared on the record on with Michael Dunn on KLCC about that very topic, the loss of healthcare in our community and the return to more robust healthcare solutions throughout our community. I do encourage anyone within earshot to go to klcc.org to hear that story. And speaking of KLCC, I was invited in my capacity as a foundation board member to answer the phones during their on-air radiothon gift giving earlier this week. And we ran into some friends who called to give to KLCC, which was super cool. I want to call colleagues in the community's attention to something that happened in Portland a month ago. Last month, the Portland City Council voted to phase out all gas-powered leaf blowers. And the phase out, as I understand it, is to phase those out by 2028. It's something I've been working on the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency, LRAPA. I want to thank the members of the Citizen Advisory Committee for taking that on. And I look to council colleagues and staff and the Sustainability Commission to hopefully be partners to see that something similar come to fruition right here in our own backyard in the calendar year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other counselors with comments? Seeing none, I'm just going to chime in on my own. I just want council in particular and the public also to know that the Blue Ribbon panel that I convened last fall, met for the first time. We met September, October, November, and then again in January, February, and March. So they were slated to meet 6 times. They have met 6 times. They were tasked with developing recommendations, specific actions to advise the city on how we could create a healthy business environment, or a healthy economy. So those recommendations will be coming. They're finalizing those. They're going through an editing process. They will be formally presented in June. And so there'll be a public announcement, and there'll be a council work session on those recommendations. And so that council met at 7:30 in the morning for 6 months, and staff to council meeting the night before, and then had to show up at 7:30 the next morning. So it was investment. We were supported by the city manager, attended those meetings, assistant city manager attended, other staff as needed attended those meetings. So it was, we made a significant investment in having those conversations and coming up with, and having really a very interesting and constructive discussion. So I look forward to presenting those to you when the time comes. And I just wanted you to know that it's coming. The work was done. And so looking forward to presenting all that. And with that, I think we're ready for the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. I would normally make a motion for the consent calendar, but I'm going to tease this out into 2 different motions, and I will happily address or answer any questions colleagues have as to why. My first motion, move to approve the minutes for the public hearing, work sessions, and meetings on January 22nd, 2024, February 12th, 2024, February 20, 2024, February 21, 2024, and February 26, 2024, with corrections to the minutes for February 26, 2024, to change the phrase community shelters to community supported shelters on page 26 of the packet.
Second.
Okay.
Is there any discussion or anyone seeking clarification? Yes, Councilor. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, please. Oh, yeah, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You. Thanks, Mayor.
I know. Taking it away. All in favor, please raise your hands. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Right.
Next up.
Thanks, Mayor. Move to approve items B, C, and D consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm a bit embarrassed. Sorry.
It's great. All right, we are now ready to move into the public comment period. This is a time and an opportunity for individuals to speak to the city council on any city related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by hearings official. And so with that, I see the staff has already presented the list of speakers, and I think I'll just turn it right over to Cherish.
Excellent. We have 26 speakers this evening. I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. If you are announced as the next speaker, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of the 2.5 minutes. Your microphone will be muted at the 2.5 minute mark. Please note that the use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Our first speaker this evening is Ralph McDonald, followed by Madison Lusk.
Greetings, Mayor and councilors. My name is Ralph Liam McDonald. I'm a resident of Matt Keating's Ward 2, 45-year resident up there. I appreciate working with the council and the mayor in shared community issues over the years. I've been chair or co-chair of the Southwest Hills Neighborhood Association for 10 years, still on the board, and served on the Sustainability Commission for 4 years. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Sheena board, which submits the following statement. A statement with a caveat that we would like to discuss it further in a general meeting, and that this was a board a statement that we've made. Whereas Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower, in his farewell address in 1961, warned against the establishment of a military-industrial complex and an entrenched United States war economy. And whereas transition away from the climate change inherent in the CO2 rise from continued reliance on fossil fuels is called for, and instead increased investment in clean energy sources is necessitated. Therefore, the Sheena board supports the city council directing the city manager and city attorney to bring back to council for consideration enforceable code language for a socially responsible investment policy. I would add that I've been informed that there are bits and pieces of policy from 2014 when I was on the Sustainability Commission. There, in 2017, 2018, there were some language that was discussed in proclamations. But compared to Portland, which has a robust, socially responsible investment policy, we don't have anything contiguous. It's more piecemeal in what's available here in Eugene. Many cities have done this. I know there are legal constraints. I know that in Oregon there are particular legal constraints. But based on our sister cities and the current need, I would like to see the city of Eugene advance the resolution that the citizens here are presenting to City Council tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. Our next speaker is Madison Lusk, followed by Katie Preston.
Hello, City Council. My name is Madison Lusk. I'm from Ward 1. I'm also here on the Socially Responsible, have the official name, Socially Responsible Investment Committee and a Human Rights-Based Investment Policy for the City of Eugene. This has come together from a working group of multiple people and organizations across Eugene. This is a resolution that we hope can bring more socially responsible investment to Eugene, and specifically divestment from the genocide that's happening in Palestine. I'm grateful for the ceasefire resolution that y'all had passed previously in 2023. We hope that this can be a concrete way for our city to stand in solidarity and to choose to make socially responsible decisions about where our funds go. Something that I really would like to highlight about this policy is that it creates a citizen committee to manage a divestment blacklist for companies that we see are funding genocide and funding environmental destruction in Palestine. This can as well be extended beyond the issues in Palestine, but be a opportunity for citizens to have a more direct conversation with y'all about where our funds in the city are going, preferably towards things that are aligned with our values as a city and aligned with our values as community members. We've had people here speaking to y'all many times throughout the past 6 months. We've had folks out in the street, and I think that the people are really clear about what we want. The Democratic Party for Lynn County has also come out and spoken on wanting to, sorry, I want to get the words right on exactly what they called for. A ceasefire and war divestment. That has also happened similarly in the Democratic Party of Oregon. And we just hope that you continue to support socially responsible investment and that you listen to your community members. I have a copy of this right here, as well as a list of the endorsements from local organizations. And we believe that that organizational list will continue to grow. But thank you for the time. And that's all.
Thank you, Madison. Our next speaker is Katie Preston, followed by Natalie Crowder.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to be here. It's my first time at this City Council meeting, and I'm here also in support of changing how we do investments so that we can not fund corporations that are profiting from violence and genocide in other countries. I think that it's really devastating to see what's going on there. And a lot of us have spoken out in so many different ways, writing to our congressmen again and again. And none of this has really panned out so far. And we need our city to participate if we're going to see a change. We can't just think that this is going to happen from some other entity, some other group. This is our responsibility as members of this community to take the power that we have financially. And we know that finances is the biggest thing that makes a change and people actually listen to. So when it comes to putting more dollars into the hands of corporations that are going to keep reaping in money from this genocide, I really hope that we as a city can do the right thing and show our children. So many of us here are parents, and you know, they aren't immune. They hear, they know what's going on. And I think it's so important for us to lead them and to show them that we actually do care about children in other countries and what's happening to them, especially when it's happening on our dime. So thank you for having me tonight. And I hope that you can continue to build that resolution and work towards divesting from corporations that profit from genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Our next speaker is Natalie Crowder, followed by Christina Niddle.
Hi, Natalie Crowder. I'm Ward 5, but I've lived in Ward 7 for, 45 years. I'd like to address the homeless issue. This week, I attended both River Road and Santa Clara Association meetings. The first one, which was well attended, but lacked Lindsay being there. Apparently you were sick. There was supposed to be a question and answer period between Lindsay and Barbie, who's also running for Ward 7. The second meeting I attended was the Santa Clara meeting, which was very interesting. There was some presentation on homeless things that are going on in our community. Lindsay, you came late and you left early. So it left no time for us to dialogue with you. We need to dialogue with you. We are in dire straits in River Road with the Navigation Center and the homeless issue. We need you to be present and available to talk. So it's time for all of you sitting up there to listen to your constituents, every last one of you. Some of you don't answer people, but many do. Homelessness is a difficult issue. As Councillor Evans said, he's not here tonight, when he came on board 11 years ago, it was #1 issue in Eugene. Well, guess what? We're still #1 issue in Eugene. I appreciate what Randy Grove said in one of the council meetings, that there are 3% homeless and there's 97% of us that are taxpayers and abiding by laws and doing what we feel to be right for our community. At the Santa Clara meeting, there were frustrated, angry people who felt they hadn't been heard. For many of us who frequently canvassed the ward, including Santa Clara and River Road, the man that was most outspoken was demonstrative of residents' frustrations, anger, and profound distrust of Eugene's political administrative apparatus regarding crime, filth, public sex, and it's repeated every time we go out and talk to the constituents. Maybe you've heard that. I don't know. I have. We are overburdened. We are blue-collar, middle-class workers who've been struggling to survive overburdened by fees, taxes, and inflation, and we've been ignored and abandoned. You don't have to.
Thank you, Natalie. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker this evening is Krista Niddle, followed by Kyle Purdy.
Hello, my name is Krista Niddle, and I live in Springfield. Thank you for passing the Gaza ceasefire resolution in 2023. I'm here because Eugene needs a human rights-based investment policy. Billions of dollars are being spent on bombs and missiles which go to Israel. This doesn't benefit the people of Israel, and worst of all, it's causing genocide for the Palestinians. Portland has passed a comprehensive policy on socially responsible investing. So now it's time for Eugene to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Our next speaker this evening is Kyle Purdy, followed by Alfredo Gormiazano.
Hello, my name is Kyle Purdy. I'm from Ward 5. I've been a lifelong resident of Eugene. I'm also here tonight to speak in favor of a human rights-based investment policy. Homelessness was brought up a minute ago, and I think it's important to note that while houselessness is an issue all around the world, in Gaza, due to the actions of the Israeli and US government, about 1.8 million Palestinians no longer have a home. There have been an incredible number of buildings destroyed. They've been destroyed with our government's money and our government's weapons. We are trying, millions of people across the country are trying at every level of government to divest from this genocide, to try to get peace. And I think it's important that our funding from the city is compatible with our values. So I ask that you support that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Our next speaker is Alfredo Gormazano, followed by Nancy Honert.
Good evening. I came here to talk about homeless issue, to talk about eWeb acting like a dictatorship in our city, forcing smart meters on our houses and threatening ultimatums constantly that they're going to shut off our power if we do not accept their smart meters on our house. Last time I came here to speak about this, there were no responses about it. I need responses. We need responses. This last time at the eWeb meeting, many people came to speak up against having these smart meters imposed upon our houses. And it was just walked all over by the eWeb board. It was walked all over by the operations manager. Last time I came to one of these meetings, I heard an eWeb board member thanking the city for giving them $65 million check. And I said, please find a way to keep that money from going to these smart meters. Take it back, defund that company. Talk about responsible investments. They are a dictatorship in our city, and they're acting, in my eyes, more like terrorists. I wake up every morning wondering, is my power going to be off today? Is it going to be off today? There are many people in our city that way. And as far as the homelessness situation, yeah, we have housing shortage in Eugene, but you know, I was away for almost 7 years. I come back and see these gigantic boxes being built that no one can afford to move into. No one who actually lives here can afford those places. They demand, oh, you have to have a third of the rent is going to be your income in order to be able to move in. Well, people here do not have that. Also, I have to speak up because I came back to Eugene on October 6th, the day before the you-know-what hit the fan over in the Middle East. And as far as genocide, what you saw on October 7th is what would be happening to everyone in Israel if these supposed resistance fighters got their way. So there are more sides to this story than is being pushed. No one spoke up when Assad was murdering other Arabs, 500,000 of them in Syria. No one spoke up against the Ukraine, Russia destroying them. Oh, we want to disarm them. We don't want them to get weapons to defend themselves. But what does that have to do with our city? You know, we are a city here. We are not funding weapons.
Thank you, Alfredo. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker this evening is Nancy Honert, followed by David Eigel.
I'm Nancy Honert from Ward 2. And I want to say that we appreciate the leadership that council has shown by passing Oregon's first in the state electrification ordinance and for voting to return to this issue in June 2024 after the Ninth Circuit Court's misguided legal ruling in Berkeley forced the council to repeal it. At the June electrification work session, council must move forward with one or more alternative pathways to electrify Eugene homes and buildings as quickly as possible. We've already experienced significant delays that prevent our community from benefiting from the climate, health, and economic benefits that come from electrification and we must act now to meet the goals set out in our climate recovery ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next speaker is David Eigel, followed by Ashley Wright.
David Eigel, Ward 1. I'm overjoyed to inform you today that thanks to my recent research, I can now state that I have documented that the Dunn Report narrative is not only a preposterous hoax, but a hoax based on fraudulent scholarship. Michael Schill's publicity that Professor Dunn had been a professor by day and a Klansman by night was a lie based on fantasy, not fact. Not only wasn't Dunn active with the Klan, there were no night-riding Klansmen in Eugene. The U of O D.D. Dunn report begins with the statement that, to the section on Dunn, we have appended a copy of the historical document confirming his exalted position with the Ku Klux Klan. The report concludes with a typed sheet of paper that lists different communities and their supposedly associated chapter secretaries and chairmen. The document was cited to the Oregon State Historical Society, implying that this was a KKK document that had been authenticated by the society. The list is unlabeled, undated, and unsigned. In response to my recent inquiry, the society stated that it has not been authenticated as originating with the KKK or any other source. The document source is unknown. It was merely a list some unknown person typed and is in no manner associated with any primary source documentation. The society representative seemed surprised that it would be cited by anyone, even asking if I had seen it cited somewhere. This document the Dunn report presents as its evidentiary centerpiece of Dunn's being his exalted cyclops is equivalent of someone saying, it must be true, I read it somewhere on the internet. It has no evidentiary value. It does nothing to confirm Dunn's being the local chapter chairman. It couldn't because he wasn't. I will be asking each of you individually and collectively to formally ask the University of Oregon to either provide documentary evidence to support the assertions of the discredited Dunn report or to disassociate the university from the report. I will be providing you with written information shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our next speaker is Ashley Wright, followed by John Crowder.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Ashley Wright. I live in Ward 1. Been living in Eugene about 22 years. I'm here to talk about the human rights-based investment policy. I'm in support of it. We started the meeting by talking about fair housing. In Gaza, the IDF has destroyed at least 60% of housing. Let's not tie up our investment dollars in that. We also talked about Earth Day. The UN has been reporting environmental destruction. We've been hearing about the lack of clean water. So this is something we can do from right here in Eugene. It can be hard to see all the suffering and say, oh, what can we do? We're so far away. Well, this is something we can do together. We can act together and have a human rights-based investment policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Our next speaker is John Crowder, followed by Scott Fife.
I want to thank everybody for the service you give. I would not want to be up there, and I'm not trying to say that I know something that you folks don't know. So I received something in the mail, and it basically says that Oregon is the second. Oregon's new government employees and increased salaries are driving a rise in government spending. Oregon is number 2 in the nation in how much money is spent per capita. So I'll put copies of that in the tray for you. And so, so Dr. Phil would say, well, how's that working for you? So we look at the city of Eugene from my standpoint. Eugene is facing, what I understand, bankruptcy. The homeless situation is out of control. Housing, it is a disaster. It's not affordable. We all know that. Safety, lack of law enforcement. I heard that the city police cannot stop people for speeding. And I said, well, gee, somebody go 100 miles an hour? And they said, yeah, because I've lived in River Road for a number of years, Ward 5, and I've never seen somebody stop somebody for speeding. So there's a lot of things we need to take care of. So what is a logical action plan? The city council and city manager need to have a balanced budget. And I'm not sure where that sits, but it'd be nice if that became public. You need to look how you can cut expenses. And I will send you something. The Clackamas County Commissioner had some innovative ideas on how to do things, and they served think they saved $13 million the same year by making each department accountable. Number two, do not enter into issues that promote social, progressive, and conservative issues that do not relate to services that are out there. I'm also going to give you it's from the Oregon Blue Book, The Role of City Government, and it focuses on how you can serve the people. I'll read it. Among the services city government typically provide are fire and police protection, street and street maintenance, sewer and water treatment, and collection systems, building permit activities, libraries, parks, and recreation activities, and other numerous social services determined locally. The cities also have considerable responsibilities for land use planning within the city limits and urban growth boundaries. And that brings me up to the Santa Clara River Road urban plan that they want to redo. And I encourage you to vote no on it. Why don't I want you to vote no on it? It's because one of the issues in there.
Thank you, John. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker tonight is Scott Fife, followed by Rebecca Amodeo.
Yeah, I'm in Ward 1. My name is Scott Fife. I just want to make sure that the city council supports investment policies that support human rights. And I'd like to see environmental rights supported as well. And I'd like to see open books across the whole board for everything that we're doing. We need a sunshine policy on our investments and on the total finance of the city, because we don't know where you're putting your money. And we'd like to see, we're giving money to corporations that are, to build housing that nobody can afford. So I just want to say, that's what I support. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Scott. Our next speaker is Rebecca Amodeo, followed by Aya Cockrum.
Hello, Mayor Venice, City Council, and supporting workers. My name is Rebecca Amodeo. I'm a resident in the Ward 7 area of River Road neighborhood. And I came tonight also to endorse the rapid development and implementation of the human rights-based investment that has been referenced by several neighbors here tonight. I thank my neighbors who have shown up to demonstrate the seriousness of people throughout our city that want to live our values in how we spend our money, values that are expressed in the mayor's own opening remarks for fair housing. Others tonight have named the connection between the noble goals of our city's declarations and the actions we're facilitating through much of our city's spending at this time. I would like to see these tangible steps taken, and thank you, neighbors. Good night.
Thank you, Rebecca. Our next speaker is Aya Cockrum, followed by Rudy Preston.
Dear Mayor Venice and City Council, thank you for your time. My name is Aya Cockrum. I live in Ward 1 and I'm the Coalition Coordinator for Fossil Free Eugene. Thank you for voting to return to the new building decarbonization issue this June after the unfortunate legal setback caused by the Ninth Circuit Berkeley case. Community members are looking to council to move forward with one or more alternative pathways to electrify Eugene homes and buildings as quickly as possible. Since July, there have been notable events and developments relating to this issue. In August, Fossil Free Eugene held 2 heat and smoke events and sent folks home with air purifiers and AC units. This was followed by a triple-digit heat dome and intense wildfire smoke. September 15th, students walked out of school to call for an end to the era of fossil fuels. Their demands included City Council moving forward an electrification policy. Student organizers at the University of Oregon have been urging the UO Thermal Task Force and leadership to prioritize their future by transitioning their polluting gas boiler system to the most efficient and clean option. As of yet, no concrete actions have been taken. In early December, Fossil Free Eugene Coalition member Beyond Toxics released a report titled Fumes in Focus, which helped to visualize toxins, including chemicals that may cause asthma and cancer, released when cooking with gas stoves. At the same time, 8 elected officials and 31 organizations called on the Oregon Department of Justice to take immediate action against Northwest Natural's misleading and false communications. This letter focused on air quality risks of gas appliances in light of recent discoveries and studies such as the Climate Investigation Center's Burning Questions, a history of the gas stove industry's campaign to manufacture controversy over the health risks of gas stove emissions, FFE held a workshop on energy saving tools and provided weatherization supplies. This event was followed by the February ice storm, which highlighted the need for further resilience and, as with the summer heat and smoke, underlined the need to act on climate change. Northwest Natural is also currently planning a trip this month to take Oregon lawmakers to Denmark to try and sell them on fall solutions like RNG and green hydrogen. I give you this overview to say that we are already experiencing significant delays that prevent our community from taking important steps for public health and to meet the goals set out in our CRO. The gas industry continues to show they are not willing to make the necessary changes to decarbonize. So, as ever, we need your leadership to take steps to stop the spread of fossil fuel infrastructure in Eugene this June and pass policy as quickly as possible. Thank you so much, and sorry for the speed of my testimony.
Thank you, Aya. Our next speaker is Rudy Preston, followed by Sam Cook.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rudy Preston. Excuse me. First off, I would like to say that Councilmember Evans' discussion about healthcare, we're on the verge now of a serious crisis here. And if this isn't being taken up by you all, and probably much more so at the Lane County level, but you need to be doing everything you can to keep this from getting seriously out of control, because it is very bad. Very bad. So I didn't come here to talk about that, but now that he mentioned it, this needs to be on a lot of agendas really fast, or it will become something much worse than some of the other issues that you're already facing. Additionally, no leaf blowers, man, that'd be great. Really awesome. I work at home. Leaf blower Thursday is brutal. But to something a little more serious, I came here tonight because I'm watching a federal government that ignores us completely. The things that we ask for, the things that we want, we have really no particular choices of someone who's going to come out and do something that we feel like might actually be good to stop the things going on in Israel and Palestine. You had 3 proclamations that started this meeting: a land back or a land proclamation, all those things. Those are just words. They don't do anything. I mean, they're nice to say, and I appreciate them, but they're not action. We need action now. Those people need action now. They're dying, a lot of them daily. And it is on the dollar of that. I put some money into that, and that hurts because I didn't have a choice in that. But we do have a choice about the dollars that we have in our pockets here in this town. And we can say, no, we're not going to support this. If this was like 1978 or 1980 and we were talking about South Africa right now, this wouldn't even be a very difficult decision. We all knew that was bad, and it finally ended. And the person that they put in jail, who was the most amazing person, Nelson Mandela, he became their president. So things can change, but it's going to take us doing it. And it's a small step, and it's all we can do from here, because we've got people at the federal level ignoring us. So let's take our money and put it where it belongs. Social investment is very important.
Thank you, Rudy. Our next speaker is Sam Cook, followed by Janet Ayers.
Hi, Council. My name is Sam Cook, and I live in Ward 7. And I want to appreciate my neighbor, because I'm going to kind of bounce off of what he said unintentionally. That was just the luck of the draw. In 1987, the Oregon State Legislature passed a comprehensive anti-apartheid divestment law targeting the apartheid regime in South Africa. This law was the result of decades of activism from activists in Oregon and around the country. This resulted in a decline in the state portfolio by percentage from 9% to 2% in 4 years invested in South Africa when the law was repealed in recognition of the end of apartheid. This law, combined with a global movement to divest from apartheid South Africa, contributed decisively to the end of the horrors of apartheid in that country. Our current state and federal legislators have not shown the same degree of moral clarity or courage as those in the 1980s. But you, council members, have the opportunity to do so. To recognize that the ongoing genocide in Gaza is funded by our tax dollars, both federally and locally, and make the active choice to reject the use of our taxes to further the apartheid and war against Palestinians. I strongly encourage the council to deeply consider the position they're in to act within the established tradition of our state in choosing to reject investment in undemocratic, violent regimes from South Africa to Israel. And so it is for these reasons that I ask the city council to support the motion to direct the city manager and city attorney to revise our code to reflect our values and in the way our money is invested. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Our next speaker is Janet Ayers, followed by Kaylee Bronson Cook.
Thank you, City Council. Janet Ayers, Ward 7. I chose 3 topics to push on briefly tonight with the 2.5 minutes I have. First of all, rather than the political stance of war, naming Palestine, there are many spots on our planet right now that are in war, and I'd like a blanket approach on war. Let's not give any more profit to any of the wars, whether it be Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, Taiwan. There are hot spots all over the planet right now. And there is a military industrial complex. Our Vice President, Dick Cheney, profiteered greatly from the wars. I like a blanket approach of any war. It's heinous and we shouldn't have it anywhere. My first was the pledge. I've noticed we go into detail. I have Chippewa heritage, so I'm not disrespectful. I honor and respect the Native American peoples, but I hear it's redundant to hear it read over and over. And I'd like to see something more visual, maybe made by the Kalapua tribe, posted so that we can see it. And let's unite by doing the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of each meeting. It has become so divisive that I think that that's the one thing that all people have in common is we love our great nation, as flawed as it is in its current state. So please, let's restore the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of each meeting. The next one is the budget. I happen to have a meet date with someone that indicated that the city has chosen to biennium on the budget, that is every 2 years. I would like to see posted, because it's rarely talked to, and most of the public doesn't have any idea as to the revenue, big poster, as to the capital projects, big poster, and to the reserve fund that keeps our credit rating in place. That credit rating now is at 2.7%. That is the totality of all budgets, half for each of the 2 years, total of 8%.
Thank you, Janet. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker this evening is Kaylee Bronson Cook, followed by Leilani Subzalian.
Good evening. My name is Kaylee. I live in Ward 7, and I'm here tonight because I believe that we as Americans have an obligation not only to demand a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, which I appreciate the council for already doing, but also to demand that our tax dollars stop being used to fund genocide through mass killing of thousands and thousands of civilians immediately. When I last spoke to this council in support of the ceasefire resolution, the numbers I shared were that over 14,000 Palestinians, 6,000 of which were children, had been killed just since October 7th. That's not including the ongoing genocide that's been happening for decades. Now, more than 31,000 Palestinians have been killed, including at least 10,000 children, including thousands who are missing, trapped under rubble, or injured. The time for divestment is long past, and the Palestinian people cannot wait. The time for action is now, as has been said by many. Supporting the boycott, divest, and sanction movement is how we can do that. You can learn more about this movement at bdsmovement.net. There's some great information about which companies specifically, both as a city, but also as individual consumers, we should be boycotting, divesting from, and sanctioning. Some tonight have alluded that this issue isn't relevant at the city level, and I could not disagree more. My tax dollars that are paid to this city are implicated in mass death and genocide, and I refuse to allow that to continue. This has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. Our next speaker tonight is Leilani Subzalian, followed by Felicia Figueroa Carnine.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Leilani Subzalian, and I live in Ward 3, and I'm a constituent of Council Member Zelenka, and I'm here today to urge you to pass the resolution establishing a socially responsible investments committee and a human rights-based investment policy for the city of Eugene. I also want to disagree with the idea that we aren't connected to what is happening in Palestine. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, all my relations. I heard your land acknowledgement. I thank you for that. And all my relations is not just a catchy native slogan that you hear. It describes reality and the intimate and interconnected nature of our universe. And all my relations is also prescriptive. Once you're in a relationship, it comes with responsibilities. When you know you're in a relationship, you have to ask yourself, am I in good relation? So I view the resolution that you all passed in 2014, establishing a policy that the city not directly invest in fossil fuel companies, as a resolution intended to hold the city of Eugene accountable for being in good and right relation to land and to the various forms of life those lands sustain. I see the proposed resolution today as a way of continually asking ourselves, is our city in good relationship with Palestinians? We're already in relationship with Palestinians, but right now we're in relationship with Palestinians through harm. And we support this harm through silence, through our tax dollars, and through our denial of our complicity and our responsibility to stop the harm. We can't change everything, but we can change how we want to be in relation to Palestinians. We can't do everything, but at the very least, we can make a commitment to being transparent about our spending and resolve not to spend funds on corporations that violate Palestinian human rights or that harm Palestinian people. I think most people today know in their hearts and minds that our nation is complicit in the genocide of Palestinians, but they lack the moral courage to take a stance. I'm asking you as my elected representatives to be people of conscience in this moment and to use your power and platform as city leaders to ensure that our money does not fund genocide. This is one way you can show up and be in good relation in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Leilani. Our next speaker is Felicia Figueroa Carnine, followed by John Monroe.
Hi, my name is Felicia Figueroa Carnine. I'm from Ward 7, and I too am here in support of Resolution 54. We breathe together. We breathe together. We breathe together. Stop the occupation. We breathe together. We breathe together. We breathe together. Stop the occupation. We march, we march, we march together. We march together. We march together. Stop the occupation. We grieve, we grieve, we grieve together. We grieve together. We grieve together. Stop the occupation. We strike, we strike, we strike together. We strike together. We strike together. Stop the occupation. Ceasefire, ceasefire. 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 Stop the occupation. We breathe, we breathe, we breathe together. We breathe together. We breathe together. Stop the occupation. Free Palestine, free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Stop the occupation. Ceasefire, ceasefire. 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 Stop the occupation.
Thank you, Felicia. Our next speaker this evening is John Monroe, followed by Jeffrey Gordon.
Hello, this is John Monroe, currently living in the WIT. Recognize some of you from about a decade ago when I was here frequently for homeless issues, which I guess is still a hot button issue here in Eugene. But tonight I'm here speaking on behalf of the social responsible investment policy that's before us. But if you think about it, well, it might seem that it's kind of a jump from that topic to this one. Actually, in a lot of ways, I was thinking about it as folks were speaking back and forth, and a lot of key ways are actually deeply interconnected. On one hand, there are fundamentally struggles about basic human rights, about people just being able to live their lives, about being able to wake up in the morning, about being able to spend time with their family, about their kids being able to go to school, their parents being able to go to work and then come back, have dinner together and go to sleep. It was amazing how much resistance there was in Eugene at the time, and apparently still is, to the idea that that 3% of our population that is not living inside of a house should not get that. And it's very surprising for me to hear so many Americans that don't believe the people of Palestine deserve that either. And in both cases, there's quite a bit of stereotypes, ignorance, outright bigotry, whether it's the belief that people that don't live in houses are all criminals and somehow those that do live in houses are not, or that all Palestinians are terrorists and somehow the people we're sending money to are the most moral army in the world. And at the end, the real disgusting part for me is that in every single case, there's always someone behind the scenes making a dollar off of it. The people that were maintaining the cruel, inhuman, and sometimes outright sadistic policies against the homeless in this city were the highest members of the Chamber of Commerce who did not want to lose their nice window front business access. And right now, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and so many others are making huge amounts of profits off of the weapons that our government is selling to the Israeli occupation. And yes, it's disgusting and disheartening that my tax dollars are going towards that. But even worse, by investing in these companies, this city is making a profit off of that genocide. This city is making profit off of that pain. This city is making profit off of that terror. So in some ways, whether it's here.
Thank you, John. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Gordon, followed by Todd Boyle.
Those are some big acts to follow. Well, if you don't already know who I am, my name is Dr. Jeffrey Gordon. I live in Ward 7. I wrote the resolution before you, the draft resolution 54XX for short. Resolution 54XX creates a citizen committee to maintain a divestment blacklist for companies that commit or enable human rights violations or contribute to environmental destruction. Endorsements for Resolution 54XX as of today include the Community Alliance of Lane County, Students for Justice in Palestine, Eugene Extinction Rebellion, Planet versus Pentagon, Springfield Eugene Anti-Imperialist Coalition, Healthcare Workers for Palestine, Movement for People's Democracy, Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Working Committee of Grads for Palestine, and I'm sure more are to come soon. I thank you for the ceasefire resolution that was passed in 2023, but Israel has defied the orders to prevent genocide that were made by the International Court of Justice. The UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories reported that a genocide has been committed in Gaza. Israel has committed a litany of historic environmental crimes, which is also being investigated by the United Nations Environment Program. The time has come for the city of Eugene to create a comprehensive human rights-based investment policy with a clear do not buy list for corporate securities and vendors that is maintained by a council of citizens. A lack of citizen oversight over our investments invites corruption. The Democratic Party of Lane County 2024 platform calls for a ceasefire and war divestment. The Democratic Party of Oregon officially supports a ceasefire and the unconditional release of all detainees and hostages as of March 2024. The Democratic Party of Oregon 2023 platform states all state actors must be held accountable to international humanitarian laws and accepted laws of war. We support active U.S. participation in the International Court of Justice, and we oppose the use of artificial intelligence and pre-programmed autonomous weapons in warfare or other conflict situations. This applies to Israel and companies that enable its occupation and genocide of Palestine. Make the right choice. Motion to bring the policies and this resolution into city code. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Our next speaker this evening is Todd Boyle, followed by Lori Harmon.
Todd Boyle, Ward 2. I was born in 1952, and that was during the Korean War. And I was subjected to the McCarthy era. And as a result, I think I became oppositional. That's probably one of the origins of my oppositionality. I was in the first Earth Day March. I protested Vietnam. I've been protesting wars my whole life. And this is a historic time. We're actually living in a moment now that's comparable to about only 3 or 4 moments that I can recall in my lifetime. The evil that's being perpetrated on the people of Gaza right now is totally off the scale. And the United States is unique, and we're living in a groupthink bubble where the United States is like the only country that's opposing the resolutions of the United Nations and keeps shipping hundreds of billions of dollars of bombs to Israel, to kill innocent people. Okay, so is there a solution to the problem in Israel? Maybe not. Maybe there's going to be a historical moment where Israel passes into history and gives equal rights to the Palestinian people as they do to the white people from Europe and Russia that live there. I mean, there could be worse things, than the end of the state of Israel. There really actually could be. And it isn't something that should be unthinkable. You know why it's unthinkable? Because we're living in a groupthink. We're reinforcing and we're kind of going along with this thing. We don't have to go along with this. Enough already, all right? How many 100 years does this have to go on? Let's just stop it. Stop funding Israel. And this thing about not investing, this isn't going to change anything. I've been through this over and over again. We don't have billions of dollars that we're investing in Chase Manhattan Bank or something. That isn't the way it is. We're probably have negative balances. I mean, come on. We don't have any power with this money. What we have power is you as an individual. You say enough, enough. I'm not doing this anymore. Pick up the phone and call Ron Wyden and Merkley and all these guys. Call them up and Val Hoyle and say, look, this is wrong, but it's making us sick. It's making us sick in our heart. We don't want to be part of this. This is Eugene, This isn't like some shithole country. Okay, sorry I said it.
Thank you, Todd. Our next speaker is Lori Harmon, followed by Carl D.
My name is Lori Harmon, and I'm from Ward 4. And like so many people have said tonight, I think, the issue here is just really clear that we need a human rights-based investment policy, that we need to not be investing in companies that are profiting from genocide. And so I ask you to please consider that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Our next speaker is Carl D., followed by our final speaker, Eric Howanitz.
Good evening, Ward 7. I'm here tonight to express my concern regarding the city's casual, costly, and incompetent response to what is an ongoing quality of life, public health, and safety crisis in the Whitaker. For over 60 years, the Whitaker has taken the brunt, a disproportionate negative impact of Lane County and the city of Eugene's houseless, mental health, and drug issues. Because of this, we've also experienced a serious discrepancy of accessing a higher quality of life when compared to other more affluent and historically represented city populations. The Whitaker livability issues pose a serious challenge to the integrity of Eugene's policy intention of creating equitable communities. These problems have been caused by current and historical short-sighted planning, a consistent lack of effective leadership, namely strong Ward 7 advocacy and representation, failed policies, mismanaged priorities and finances, and a dismissive city attitude that the drugs, crime, and our area's lower quality of life should be justified due to the Whitaker's overabundance of social services and historically lower socioeconomic status. This is unacceptable. And this is what I'm told by city staff, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh, it's because you guys have the services. Fortunately, many of the houseless people that have migrated into the Whitaker over the years are willing and motivated to receive said services and transition off of our streets. However, there are still large numbers of houseless people living a life of vagrancy by choice, many with extreme antisocial behaviors, some being caused by mental health and drug addiction, others due to embracing criminality, all of which continue attacking our quality of life and posing serious health and safety risks to themselves and others throughout our neighborhood. I give thanks for the city's ongoing effort to eradicate the now endemic vagrancy problem at Washington Jefferson Park. That's garbage, needles, child sex prostitution, all the stuff that you guys are aware of, the murders, the people that have been burned in tents, the stolen cars, the chop shops, the bicycle chop shops, all of that stuff that you guys are aware of, right? I'd also like to express gratitude for the small dog park that was put in between 5th and 6th that so far in its limited existence has been a success.
Thank you, Carl. Your time is concluded. Our next and final speaker is Eric Howenitz.
As an American of privilege, I've studied political science and international relations for 25 years. But one of the greatest insights I've always depended on is if South Africa says it's apartheid and genocide, take their word for it. This isn't like it was 20 years ago when I worked in Palestine with South Africans and international activists cataloging the crimes of the occupation. All of you can see what's going on in Palestine. A sea change needs to occur in American policy. And this council needs to represent what we all know to be one of the more radical cities in America. It's your privilege to represent the people of a city so ready to be on the right side of history, so ready to break the mold. The resolution before you tonight has been served to you on a silver platter. It's boilerplated from a similar resolution approved in Portland. We ask that you vote on this for the city manager to use this as a guiding document moving forward. Movement organizers are happy to meet with you and work effectively in collaboration with the city attorney and the city manager to implement policy according to this resolution. This movement isn't going anywhere. We are here tonight to see change happen. But while I've still got some time here, this is the easy part for you guys. This is an easy vote. The hard part's going to be you getting a state hospital downtown because the private sector has obviously betrayed our community. And I sincerely hope you will slash whatever subsidies Peace Health is receiving at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Mayor, that was our final speaker.
So much. This was a very powerful evening of testimony, and I want to appreciate the deep passion that you all brought to it. The conversation about disinvestment, the conversation about homelessness, the concerns about healthcare. We do not live in a simple time. I will just say, and I will tee it up for the counselors, that as Ralph McDonald noted in the opening comment, that the city has done some work on looking at our investments, and I'm sort of turning to the city manager that maybe she can remind us. And I think our starting place actually is to look at the work that we've already done on this and sort of get our bearings. Some of that was done before this council. Some of it was done before I was mayor, and some in my first couple of years as mayor. So I don't know, manager, you've got something you can share.
I don't have a lot. We're actually researching it right now. We did some work. I just couldn't recall when we first started talking about this. I was like, I thought we had done a resolution in the past. I know what we did was I know we had a work session with council to talk about what kind of components we'd want to put in an RFP before we went out looking for our new bank when we were doing our banking RFPs wrong. And it was mostly focused on climate, certainly not on genocide. So we're still researching that to put it together so you can kind of look at that as a path forward.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much. And I see Alan, Councilor Zelenka's got a comment.
Yeah, thank you all for coming in, the passion you show when you come to the council meetings. I just wanted to, first of all, let me say that almost all of my personal retirement funds or investments are and have been since the 80s in social responsible investing funds. So as part of that, at my request and some other council's requests, several years ago while Kitty Piercy was mayor, the city actually did a deep dive into whether we could do a divestment policy and what impact it would have. And as I recall, we did a very comprehensive and detailed review of our investments, our investment options, and our ability to influence those investments, and what would happen if we had a social responsible investing policy. And what we found was twofold. First was that the city of Eugene has no direct investments in any corporate securities or stocks. In fact, I believe we are prohibited by law from doing that. And making such investments. So almost all of our cash actually that we have, I believe, is in the state pool, and which is solely directed by the Oregon Treasurer and the Oregon Investment Council. So we have no vote on that board, and so what and how they invest those monies. So understanding that, we then sent a letter to the treasurer and the OIC, encouraging them to do social responsible investing, especially around climate change at the time. The treasurer and the OIC is probably the more appropriate place to request such the resolution that you're asking for. The second is that the small amount of money that we do keep locally is actually handled by local banks, and we did an RFP which had certain criteria in it. It's all local banks, not in corporate securities. So I think Mike and I were the only two on the council at the time. So, so if you could pull back up that previous analysis, so the new councilors could benefit from it. Let us know if anything's changed since we did that investigation. My guess is that nothing's changed or not much has changed, and our ability to have a meaningful or impactful social responsible investing policy is severely limited. So that would be very helpful. On leaf blowers, council well over 5 years ago discussed and voted on a ban of noisy, polluting gas leaf blowers, and only Councilor Betty Taylor and myself voted for it. So maybe it's different today, and this time around with quieter battery operated leaf blowers in existence. And then finally, one more comment that the city of Eugene is required by law to actually have a balanced budget. I know somebody was talking about that earlier. We're not allowed to run a deficit on an annual basis. So we are required to balance our budget on every single year, even in the new system where we do biennial budgets.
Okay, thank you for all of that. Councilor Ye.
Yeah. So first, thank you, Councilor Zlinka. That was very interesting information, and I look forward to getting more from the city. I try to remember in my own life that when I spend money that I'm voting for things, and even though I'm just one person spending a small amount of money, if we're all doing that, I think it collectively can make a difference. So even though our city is small, I do think it sends a message when we do these kinds of things, but I'm really curious to see what our boundaries are and what we can do and what we can't do. I don't usually respond to Mr. Eigel, but I think it's important, and I know he's gone, that we speak up when someone tries to rewrite our history. The KKK was very much active in both our state and locally here in Eugene, and it's important that we are aware and acknowledge this history because the power and influence they wielded then continues to affect us today. And we know that such hate continues in our community, even as we speak here. I also wanted to push back that land acknowledgements are redundant. It is part of a larger effort that the city is doing to engage with, learn from, and find ways to work together with our local tribal government partners. And it's a message that deserves repeating because as a government and as people, I think it's a message that we still need to hear.
Thank you. Councilor Leach.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Zlinka, for all of that information. And thank you all for coming to speak. I think this is an important issue to think about, talk about. I hope that we can get some more information as we move forward on what that might look like for our city. I want to recognize that a lot of Ward 7 folks have come out and spoken tonight. I want to thank you for coming. I want to speak specifically to Natalie. Thank you. I was unfortunately ill, but I am available. I'm not always available post 8:30 p.m. I do have little kids. I got to get them to bed. But if you reach out to me, I'm more than happy to meet anyone in my ward at any, at a mutually agreeable time. And Carl, I agree with you too. We need more resources in the Whitaker. It is struggling, and I'm working on that. We're all working on that. It's a big issue, and happy to talk more about that as well. So again, thank you everyone who came out tonight. Thank you for speaking your mind, and we're going to keep working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselors with comments or questions? Counselor Semple.
Thank you, Counselor Zelenka, for that history. It's important to have incumbents sometimes. I just want to, I hear that we're going to come back to this topic, the information of what we've done in the past and what we can do now. And I appreciate all the passionate speech. Obviously, we're not going to pass the resolution you gave us tonight, but I don't want you to feel that any of your words were on deaf ears or a failure. We are going to look at it and we will let you know what we find. I think there's agreement among most everybody that war is horrible. So we'll see what we can do, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everybody for showing up tonight. I had several things to say, but they were pretty much covered with the exception of the misnomer that police do not hand out traffic citations. The average patrol officer does not have time to do that. They're just basically responding from priority call to priority call, and the resources aren't deep enough for them to be sitting at the side of the road with a radar gun, but they can issue if they see something happen. At the same time, the police department does have a traffic enforcement unit. They ride motorcycles and they hand out citations all the time, but their job is not just to cite people. It's trying to promote safety from the motoring public. And they can be pulled into an area that's having a speeding problem. I know they've come into my ward on several occasions when requests have been made for an ongoing speeding problem, and it really does help raise awareness. But that's their job, is to more raise the awareness and get people to slow down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you again for those of you who came to testify, and we appreciate it. And I think with that, we are adjourned.